All right, I'm going to call to order this joint session, Monroe County Board of Commissioners and Monroe County Council. This is a work session, so we will not be taking public comment. It is Wednesday, October 9th, and I will bring to order the Board of Commissioners. We all three are here and present in the Nat U Hill Room, Penny Giffens, Lee Jones, and myself, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Deckard.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Thomas. I'm Trent Deckard with the Monroe County Council President, and I will call to order the County Council, noting for the record here in the Nat U Hill, we have Councilor Wiltz, Councilor Crossley, Councilor McKim, and again myself, for quorum.
And it looks like Mr. Iverson is on Teams.
Thank you. Any other councilors on Teams? I'm not seeing any. Okay.
All right, so yeah, this should not be a terribly long meeting. We just have a few things I know, disappointment. You like short meetings. But I'm glad we could all gather. We may or may not have to have another meeting. We'll talk about that in a moment. But we'll begin with item 2, item 1 and item 2, a synopsis of current projects. And then we'll talk through some of the options. So synopsis of current projects, Ms. Carley.
Yes, so we have this document that's been created. It's a 3-pager. The first page goes over lost revenue projects. Can you not hear me? My apologies. The first page goes over lost revenue projects. We've broken it up into 3 color categories. So you'll see the gray, those are ones that we fully expended. The green are the ones that we have not fully expended, but we have fully obligated. And then the red or orangish color is going to be the ones that we need action on. So we either need to contractually obligate these or expend prior to the end of the year. On the second page, we have the same color coding system, but these are for the restricted projects. And you'll see that we do have some that are in orange. A lot of them are just waiting for an MOU to be officially completed. Others we do need to make decisions on. And then the last page is going to be projects that we have discussed at one point or another, but we have not decided whether to move forward with those projects. As of right now, we have roughly $241,000 and change that needs to be appropriated and subsequently obligated.
Right. Adding to this, we have, by our estimate, about $317,937 left in rural housing repair. The amount that's listed there doesn't reflect the contracts. Ms. Purdy has that number. That's an estimate because some of the projects may go up a little bit if additional materials are needed to complete a roof, for example. So 317,937. And if we use that number and the 241,871, I have $559,808 remaining. 559,808.
I'm sorry.
So the rural housing repair has leftover funds of $317,937. That's not listed in the document because that reflects contracts and estimates that have already gone out but have not been completed yet, so that number in the packet doesn't quite reflect reality.
Okay.
That's on this, yeah. So with the ARPA remainder of $241,871 approximately, and the rural housing repair remaining number of $317,937, and again, that's a plus or minus. We have a total of $559,808 to allocate. We have a couple of options in number 2 here, so I would use that newer number of $559,808. In number 2 here, we have a couple options. Option B is to combine those 2 numbers together, the 559,808, take that whole amount and allocate it to the Community Foundation to continue doing the rural repair service. That's one option. That's option B. Option A I particularly want to talk to you all about, and I've included some information in the packet, is the last one, 2, 3, 5 pages, sorry, 5 pages, but I can go through it briefly. We have options to support transit, and option 1 is to continue the rural transit shadow service into 2025 for a cost of about $156,989. Now we went to the Ellisville Town Council and asked them to pay their 45% share, and they declined to do so. So that whole amount would have to come from the county. And we did the transit shadow service this year using ARPA funds, and we can do the same for next year. Now, option 2 is interesting. So Trent and Jeff Cockrell and I met with John Connell, and we were given some options for Bloomington Transit to extend service out into the county. In August of 2024, we got the number of $360,869 for one route. They also had a route that went to Ellisville, and then they had a route that combined the two, but it was very infrequent. Ellisville decided not to take Bloomington Transit up on their offer. Mr. Connell and I had some conversations, and if you look on the map, you can see that a good deal of this proposed route is actually in the city of Bloomington. So he knocked money off of the amount, and we're down to $177,885.
Not too bad.
For 2025. It's not bad. I appreciated his efforts in coming up with that number. Now, I will tell you that the Chamber of Commerce of Bloomington has offered to work with Simtra, Cook, Ivy Tech to get them to chip in additional dollars. Now, that wouldn't come off of this total of $177,885, but it would do is make it more frequent, make the bus service more frequent, because once an hour is just, I'm not sure people think it's reliable enough, right? So that's Christopher MG's plan. He's already had initial talks, but he wanted to see what we did here first. So those are the two pieces. There's a lot of information in here from Bloomington Transit as well. The last few pages are their document to us. And so if we take the combined total of the two transit options, it's $334,874, and that would be for all of 2025. Now, I think one of the things we have to do is think about what happens after 2025, and that's up to the council to figure that out, because if we start a service like this, my hope is that we can continue it. The caveat on the Bloomington Transit service is that while Bloomington Transit would be required to provide Bloomington Access bus service within 3/4 of a mile of the route, this is not, the person would have to apply and meet requirements to receive access service. It is not a dispatch system like we were offered last year. For this year, they had offered pretty much what Rural Transit Shadow Service was offering. This is not that. This is a fixed route with just a 3/4 mile corridor for BT access, which would mean there are people who would still need to be served by Rural Transit Shadow Service who don't live within the 3/4 of a mile or don't qualify for BT access. So while I would really appreciate doing both of these, I think the least we should do, personally, I think the least we should do is Rural Transit Shadow Service for 2025. And would love to hear what you all think about that.
And
questions?
I want to just offer, just so that we're being clear on this, because this has been pretty well narrated out in the public, this would be the county jumping in, at least for the Rural Transit Shadow Service. This would be the county jumping in where Ellisville has not, and saying that we will guarantee that current service for another year through these funds. And then the second option would be expanding transit by a line from Bloomington into that west corridor of the county where it has not been to date, but
Correct.
been well discussed over the years.
Right.
And a combined total of 334,000.
Right, and just to note, this is not the West Third Express route that has been discussed. This is not that. That is potentially a 2026 or after. This is not that express route. So I'm glad you raised that question.
There's a lot of housing that's gone into that 17th area.
Sure.
Pretty notoriously.
Sure.
The one, I wouldn't even say it's a concern. It is a concern, but it's not a reason, it's not an argument against doing this. A concern with the fixed route is that it's probably going to take at least a year to even establish, for people to get used to it being available. And so I hope that we don't evaluate it too prematurely and say, oh, well, not enough people are taking it. It's probably going to need several years to get ingrained. That said, I'm in favor of doing both. I think the shadow service is something we kind of need to do at this point. And since it's unfortunate that Ellettsville is not willing to put up anything, but we can continue to argue, or somebody can continue to argue for 2026. But I say we do it out of ARPA for 2025. And I think this is really exciting. The first foray of a partnership between Bloomington Transit and the county to serve those West Side businesses. I love the idea of having kind of a public-private partnership to make it more frequent. That's a great idea too.
Yeah, and hopefully he'll have success because those entities, Cook and Ivy Tech, had contributed previously to a rural transit-based route and service, and then stopped that funding. So hopefully they see, and with Simtra expanding, I think, and that route does cover Simtra, I think that is a real winner too. And so, yeah, we're going to have to get a multi-year commitment. I agree with you that we can't evaluate it within a year's time. We're going to really need some time to make sure people are using it.
But I think if it's run more frequently, it'll be used even more. And I think our partners, if like Cook and Simtra and Ivy Tech, if they help publicize this, it'll make a difference too.
And that was actually my question. Does Bloomington Transit do anything to publicize new routes in those areas?
Well, they would end up putting out bus stops, and there would be, where there aren't any now, and that would help. And I would assume that they have plans to do that. I can ask about that specifically. Hopefully,
really are the ones who have the interest in ginning up excitement among their employees.
What do you think?
I was just gonna say.
She got the long mic.
I was like, I definitely am in favor of doing both. Definitely in regards to the rural transit, like watching the Ellettsville meeting was a little disheartening, but for a multitude of reasons. But we got to do what we got to do because it was hard. It was something to listen to the public comment for people explaining like this is what will have a big impact. And I personally think of, although she didn't live here, my mom, who's no longer here with us, but who, if she needed that transit and she needed something like that, she would have been able to benefit greatly from that. So I just find that it would be the will of this county council and commissioners to work together to make this happen, because we can't let people fail despite other people not wanting to fund for whatever reason. And then, of course, we take the task to figure out what else we can do to go forward. But it would be nice to do both, but especially rural transit, to give folks the peace of mind that we can continue to keep doing this. So I would be in support of both.
Appreciate that. Yeah, it is about jobs and education and grocery visits and doctor's visits and pharmacy visits. It's so many necessities. This isn't, I'm going out to go to a party. This is really serious stuff, and it's life-changing stuff. So it's super important. Do my colleagues have comments?
I just agree with everyone else. I think this is, for a long, long time, I've felt that rural transit is something that's really critical for this community. I don't know if it's like this anymore, but I happened to live in England for a while back in the 1960s. And people who lived in the most rural areas could count on a bus every 40 minutes or so. So they could actually do the things they needed to do pretty easily. It's really sad that this is something that in America has just been ignored and gone by the wayside.
Good point. Did you have any comments?
I support doing both, for sure. And my family has made use of Bloomington BT access. And my son used to have to, when he was at Ivy Tech, take rural transit into town, change buses. And I mean, it would take a long time. A lot longer. Yeah. And so I'm fully in support of this. I think it's the right thing to do.
Great. Mr. Iverson?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Well, thank you. I want to just jump on the bandwagon. Of course, I do support this as well. And as someone that does care for an older adult in the community, I see the benefit of this immediately. I want to just echo Commissioner Githen's comments as well, that we want to make sure this is as accessible as possible, not only in terms of transit, but also in terms of cost. And then the other point that I wanted to make is I think this is a real great opportunity for our state partners to come in and see just what a need transit is in the rural areas, particularly as I think this is a great model going into the future. Thank you.
And this is really also the first foray into working with Bloomington Transit. So I think this provides a really interesting opportunity and, you know, to start small, but an important route, you know.
I think Councilor Wilt said something, then I have a comment.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. This might not be something you know the answer to, but is that, I think you said 3/4 of a mile from the route is that paratransit service, or
Right.
Is that the way it is with all of their routes? So
Yes,
that's just a standard.
It's a federal requirement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, great, okay. Just wanted to make sure that was consistent with the other lines. And just, since everyone's chiming in, I fully support doing both of these.
One of the things I was just going to add, there's been a lot of narration about this rural transit issue, and gosh knows, Commissioner Thomas has been over to Ellettsville more than I have, and more recently this year has really led that charge. But I want to say, just kind of going back to the issue, we did get through a fix last year, and I'm grateful for that fix last year. The county had a big part in that fix last year, including kind of conducting the band to get that song played, so that folks who breathtakingly described this not getting done in ways that would curdle your blood for any public official or a human that breathes, they would do that. And in this year, I have to admit that when we could go more to solutions, as we are quickly doing tonight, I have instead heard comments from, you know, Ellettsville's feelings are hurt and other things, and stepchildren, and I don't even know what that means. But this is a big action on the county, taking care of constituents on both sides of the border for those efforts. And it's a repeat of county officials going into that community, partnering and working. Now, I will say this, we got a council willing to do it now, commissioners willing to help lead that effort to get that done now. We have ARPA funds that make this possible now. We have narrated pretty well how this must continue. But one swift election or change of mind, and things do change, and the residents of those areas that happen to be around Ellettsville, they will still expect that service. And so I'd offer that to any public official out there. Transit is not going to go backwards. If it is going backwards, something else is going on economically or nationally or otherwise. Those needs will only expand. And so I would urge every county official, every city, town official, what are you thinking about proactively with those things? Because these questions will not go away, and that need will only be expected in a community such as ours, where people expect that they move in and they will have access to doctor's offices, not to go shopping at the mall, as it was offered by some, but to go get your vital services done. And I'm really happy to see us move quickly on this to get to that point. And these things keep me up at night. And the last thing I'll offer is my family lives in Ellettsville. I graduated from Edgewood High School. And when this first began, members of my family were like, if you do anything in your service, you must do something about this. This has got to get done. And I'm pleased that we're getting that done. But we got these things there's serious things in public service, and then there's this. And this is catastrophically serious for those families. So I just appreciate all of us talking about it, getting this done.
And we'll need to put a Post-it note on your budget for budget hearings for next year to talk about how to fit this in and continue that service. Okay, so yes.
Well, since you mentioned it as a council budget item for next year, remember that if the EDIT tax is used, then it also needs to be part of the economic development plan, which the commissioners pass. So you may want to think about adding that as a scope to.
Sure, that's a good point. Ange? All right.
Put it on your calendar.
So do you? Well,
we can still talk about it, I think.
Yeah. So another item was on the list initially, and I think it got mentioned. It got floated off, and Commissioner Githens wants to talk about that one.
Yeah. June, bad weather. All kinds of food was lost all across the county by a lot of people. Hoosier Hills Food Bank would like to have 2 generators to help keep things going for not only themselves, but to help other food pantries in the area. I have quotes from 2023 on this that indicate that they could buy those 2 generators for $199,000. Now, it's probably gone up just a little bit, but also United Way is willing to pay for half of that amount. So if, again, there's huge weather issues or whatever, it would not only help Hoosier Hills Food Bank, but things like Community Kitchen, Pantry 279, Grace Pantry, we could just start down the list. And so I think this is, again, looking forward, preventing problems. Certainly there was a lot of money lost with lost food all throughout the county, and so it would be another way to support county residents. And I can try to, when I looked at the numbers earlier today, I didn't realize I was looking back at 2023 numbers. I will try to get an update. But it can't be that different.
It's probably pretty close. So that'd be 100,000 added to the 334, 874. So 434, 874. Yeah.
And in the meantime, too, donations have gone down, demand's gone up at Hoosier Hills Food Bank. Sorry.
So this is not listed in this account. This is brand new.
Well, not brand new. It's been mentioned before, but it never.
Okay.
got.
It's not on the list.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
For your consideration.
It never got memorialized in print.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure. Peter has his hand up, I just noticed.
Mr. Iverson?
Yes, thank you for recognizing me. I would just want to also make sure that if this request does go forward, that we work with the folks over there at the food bank to make sure that the request for the Sophia Travis funds are not duplicating what we're doing, and that we're working in tandem with one another as it pertains to these different pots of revenue that we're working on trying to improve our society.
Okay, thank you.
Did I not see that there was a request also for a generator for something related to Steinsville?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does not have a price tag, but there was a Councilor Hawk had forwarded that the town council.
I didn't get that.
Angie knows about that and can tell us more about that, but it came from emergency management. But that building is not always going to be in Steinsville's hands, so we need to be.
Okay, hi, good evening. So I got looped into this. I think actually Councilor Hawk had forwarded it to me and asked the question about ARPA, and I responded to her question with more questions. And I spoke with Jamie Niebel, who's our emergency management director, and talked about the need is actually more of a portable generator. One, and that would be a big one that's on like a trailer. She's not overly excited about the idea of having that. However, it seems that the ability to transport your generator around the county to the areas that are in fact affected is more effective and efficient than to put a generator into a building that the county does not own. And those generators have consistent and ongoing maintenance requirements. So that's kind of where it's
But we don't
left.
have a price estimate.
We have no price estimate. I also mentioned to Jamie that this is something that she might be interested in trying to see if the state might have a grant for something like this, because it seems like emergency management across the nation probably need these kind of things. And then I also noted that, we always have a bond that is requested, and we could certainly look at that for next year for them. We have 2 generators, fixed generators on the 2024 GEO bond request. One's for YSB and one is for the Highway and Emergency Operations Center. So.
I would like to at least consider, I mean, you're right, there may be multiple funding sources, but I would like to see what we could do there. I'm generally pro-generator. I think we're only going to see more extreme weather events, and I think that's an important part of climate resilience.
But are you in favor of the portable generator, the one that can be moved around to where it's needed, or?
Well, I mean, that makes sense to me. I mean, I don't know the opposite argument. I don't know, but it seems like having a portable generator would be a lot more flexible.
Mm-hmm. Is that then a generator and the purchase of a trailer, or the purchase of another vehicle, or, I mean, how logistically, like, what is the item?
I would presume it is just a trailer with the unit on it, because they already have a truck. They have a trailer, so depending on what all they need to do, they might need a second trailer. And then they've got a vehicle on the bond, so now you've got two units capable of moving 2 trailers.
What made Steinsville request this for that building in particular?
I came in at the end, so I don't really know how that came to be. I actually don't know if it was initiated by our emergency management because they used that facility.
I could probably guess because when I was out when they had the tornado relief a year ago, April, in that part of the county, that's the staging area for Red Cross and emergency management. So I'm guessing that's probably why. But again,
Portable makes every bit as much sense.
Would serve that need as well as other needs.
And I think, as I'm recalling, their mental proclivity towards thinking, we need to think about it, is that area where the tornadoes have hit is historically where they've jumped from Spencer coming west into the county, and then usually on in the northern part of the county into Martinsville. And I think that, so mentally, I think they start thinking about that a lot, and they certainly had that very fresh Texas Ridge tornado that went through.
Yep.
I have a quick question. In terms of I'm just trying to think because we are gearing down towards the end of the year where we have to make sure that we expend the funds for this. When do we think we would be able to get a quote for it? Just because it sounds like we possibly have other avenues of trying to get funding for it, but if this is, I'm just curious to see how much it would be and then kind of compare and contrast that to other avenues of funding. So yeah, I'm curious to know when we would be able to get a quote for it.
Well, Ms. Niebel, I would presume, I guess might be better, is looking for that information.
Okay.
I don't know when she would have that, so.
So one of the things I think we could do to avoid a second meeting, although I love seeing all your friendly faces. Well, the first question is, how do you all feel about the Hoosier Hills Food Bank, half of the cost for 2 generators, $100,000?
And it may be a little over,
Maybe a little more than that.
Yeah.
Is that
I'm sorry, what did you say it was, 100,000?
for two?
Or for 2.
For 2 generators, for half the cost of 2
I
generators.
wrote down 1 million, and I was just like, that seems like a lot.
We can have one for everybody in the entire county. Yeah.
Lost in the comments.
I'm supportive.
Yeah.
I think there's an immediate benefit to having those kinds of generators. But I would like us to also see if we could buy the portable that could serve the Steinsville location as well.
Especially if they're solar.
Yeah.
Just saying,
Yeah, but you need them at night too, so it's.
they store up, charge the battery up.
They don't last very long.
They don't. I think you can get a dual system, you can get a dual system, you can get, yes. So let me propose this. We've had, so we have information here presented to us from the health department about the septic program. And if we did rural transit shadow service, Bloomington Transit fixed route, and 100,000 toward the generators at Hoosier Hills Food Bank, that leaves us with about $124,900. And of course, that number is a little flexible because of the rural housing repair still ongoing. And what we could do, the need is there for the septic program, and clearly that benefits everybody in the entire county. We could leave the last item open for the 125,000-ish and say generator for emergency management or additional funds into the septic program. And I don't know how you all feel about that. Because we might get a quote for, $500,000 for a generator, which we couldn't do anyway. I mean, or it might be, hey, I found a grant, I only need $10,000 or whatever, and then put the remainder into the septic program to help our community.
I think that there are likely other funding sources for the generator if we really hunt for that. And I'm not sure there are any other funding sources for rural septic repair, which is a major problem that affects all of us. And it's something that I would like to see us put as much money into as possible.
Yeah, maybe Carly can help me with the number, but we had found Angie and others of us had worked together and found an extra little piece of ARPA money. So was it 164,000 that we had, and it's unrestricted and it's not tied to the timetable.
What?
Oh.
How?
Talking about LATCF.
Oh, well, we did magic. What?
Yeah, LATCF.
Yeah.
Right.
Is it 164,000? Is that right?
162, 378.82.
But we don't need to talk about that.
Yeah, I'm just saying that if it really comes push to shove, we do have a little extra money that we could put toward a project.
Okay, wait a minute. Do you all know what this is? Because I don't.
Remind us what that program was.
Cockrell.
To me.
Carly knows.
It does sort of seem like we should know about it, though.
LATCF funding is similar to ARPA funding. At this point, we don't know of any deadline to obligate that funding, and it came in on one lump sum, and I don't think there are any restrictions outside of governmental purposes that we have to spend that on.
Is it long-term care recovery? Okay. I thought there was like some local project called LCDF, and we all were, but long-term care recovery or so. Okay.
So, but let's put that out of our minds right now.
But in the meantime, I do agree that septic should have priority at this point because we can look for other funding for this portable generator. Not to say that that's not also important, but
In worst case scenario, we can bond if the following year, we can put that in the bond for the following year.
You couldn't septics.
You couldn't do that for septics, you're right, yeah.
And I do want to correct myself. The acronym is Local Assistance to Tribal Consistency Fund. Local Assistance and Tribal Consistency Fund.
Local assistance.
I was not even close.
I agreed with you, so I wasn't
It
either.
was a good guess.
Thank you.
Mr. Iverson?
Yeah, in terms of the septic program, I'm looking at the calendar, and we've got not a lot of time to go here. Is this one of those programs where we'll have people applying to the Board of Commissioners for this assistance?
So the way we did this contract was with the health department, and the health department is managing the septic system repair, and they have a number of steps. They have provided us with a sheet today that identifies 53 projects in progress. Members of the health department are here if we have questions.
No, you answered my question.
Okay. And so
because the contract is with one entity, the health department, not multiple entities.
Right. And so they're running it a lot like we did the rural housing repair program, but it's being run through the health department. And they'll get if the contracts will be done, but the work won't be done probably till next summer, but we can at least get some contracts in place.
They'll be obligated before, yeah.
Right.
All right, thank you.
I guess I just don't want to leave the possible generator for Steinsville / portable generator hanging. I mean, it does look like costs are all over the place, and just doing some searching here, it looks like they go anywhere from like $35,000 to almost $100,000. So it could be up to 100. I don't know what size emergency management is looking at, but.
So would it be okay if we look for other funding, get some estimates as well? If we don't find other funding, we can go forward with the generator, and then whatever's left goes to septic repair? Or if we do find other funding, then we just put all of it into septic repair? It's $125,000.
And septic repair.
That would be okay to me.
Replacement.
You have,
Yeah.
you have enough need that it can get obligated in
If we,
time,
yeah,
it's
and
not
if we
gonna
need
implode.
more applicants, we can put it back on the website. It's not even on the website anymore because we got inundated.
And I have a tangentially related question. Did the ADA parking lot at Karst get put into the bond? Or
Angie, the ADA parking lot at Karst, wasn't that covered somewhere?
thought it was
It was covered. I don't think it was it the bond?
this, which is under
Right,
possible,
it's-
but I think it got funded somewhere, right?
It did.
Yeah, it did.
It did.
It did.
I thought it was
Okay.
the bond as well.
As long as it did.
It's being done.
And
I
my,
know that as we're
just because
Yeah.
I'd like to fulfill our legal obligations
Right.
before we are like nice to have, so, yeah, okay. I think, yeah, okay. Yeah, as long as that's being done, because gotta do it. So, yeah, I'm on board with.
Does that sound like a good plan to everybody?
Yeah.
We'll just provide information when we get it. Okay. Is everybody on board with all of that? Okay. Anybody have anything else for the good of the order? I don't know that we need to meet again. Ms. Purdy? So we want to get a cost estimate on the generator and also look for other funding sources.
When you say we, who's we?
Well, that would be emergency management's job because they'll know what they need.
Thank you.
And then we'll take a look for other funding. They need to, and we can either use this 125 toward that, and then the remainder goes to septic repair, or if we find another funding source, or it's $500,000, we don't have it, we can just put all of this towards septic.
And the 125 is what we have after the
Shadow
shadow
service,
service,
fixed rate
and the generator.
Two
for-
generators
for Hoosier
for
Hills.
Hoosier.
Gotcha.
Two for Hoosier Hills. Yeah.
Total of 100,000.
Total of
right?
100,000.
Yeah.
Total for both.
It may
yeah.
be just a little,
Yeah.
but Yeah, I'll get that re-asked.
I'm working on an email to Jamie right now. So.
Anything else for the good of the order? We're good.
Right.
All right, excellent. We're adjourned. Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.